Can you believe a country in the middle of the desert managed to produce so much water that it now exports it to its neighbors? In a world on the brink of a water crisis, Israel flipped the script and did the impossible, turning scarcity into abundance and desert into source. In this video, you'll discover how one of the driest countries on earth overcame its water shortage through technology, vision, and resilience. And the most surprising part? The project is so bold, it's now inspiring the entire planet. Imagine a country born in the heart of a desert, with scarce rainfall, dry soil, and no abundant source of fresh water. That was Israel in 1948, the year of its founding, a small territory surrounded by uncertainty, facing a devastating water crisis. While the world saw this new nation as an environmental disaster waiting to happen, Israel responded with something unexpected: transformation. Instead of accepting scarcity as fate, they tackled it head-on with science, engineering, and bold thinking. Today, against all odds, Israel not only has enough water, it produces 20% more than it consumes. And more than that, it's become a global exporter of water technology, helping nations across every continent fight drought. This is the story of how water, Israel's most scarce resource, became a symbol of innovation, resilience, and a new model for global survival. On the map, Israel looks like a tiny dot in the Middle East, but its water transformation is massive. A country expected to suffer from desertification became a global benchmark for water abundance, a paradox built with intelligence. From the very beginning, Israel faced a dilemma. How do you sustain a growing population, an expanding agricultural sector, and new cities, when the most basic element of life is missing? The answer: invent solutions the world had never seen. Technologies were developed, water recycling systems were created, groundbreaking infrastructure took shape. Israel didn't wait for rain. It decided to make water, from the sea, from sewage, from science. This journey was marked by bold decisions, financial sacrifice, and a determination that crossed borders. And it all started with an old idea and a quiet desperation. By the 1950s, the situation was dire. Natural reserves were on the brink of collapse. Rapid population growth, fueled by waves of immigration, put enormous pressure on the young nation's already limited water resources. Without water, agriculture would fail, cities wouldn't survive, and the economy would collapse. This wasn't just a technical issue, it was an existential threat. Amid this urgency, the search for solutions began, and while the world doubted Israel's chances, a forgotten name re-emerged: Walter Clay Loudermilk, a British engineer who decades earlier had proposed building a water canal from the north to the south. His idea, once shelved, returned as the foundation for a project that would change everything: the national water carrier, a lifeline born from the will to survive. Loudermilk's idea was revolutionary: bring water from the rainy north to the arid south. At the time, it sounded like a technical fantasy, but in the post-war era, with Israel newly founded and water running out, it became the country's best shot at survival. The concept was simple. Execution monumental: pump water from the Sea of Galilee, one of Israel's few water sources, to the Negev desert, crossing mountains, plains, and urban zones. It required tunnels to be dug, massive pumps to be built, water quality to be maintained, and environmental impacts to be managed, all in a country with no money, few allies, and barely a decade old. Still, construction began in 1953, and with it, the foundation was laid for the infrastructure that would sustain Israel for decades to come. The national water carrier wasn't just an engineering milestone. It became a symbol of national identity. More than a canal, it was a declaration of defiance against nature. Stretching over 130 kilometers, it became Israel's largest water project. Water from the Sea of Galilee was pumped more than 200 meters uphill, then transported through tunnels, pipelines, and canals to the country's far south. Every meter dug was a victory. Every drop transported, proof that Israel would not bow to the desert. It was a silent war against dryness, one with science, strategy, and sheer will. When it was completed in 1964, the carrier was more than a technical feat. It was a monument to a nation that chose to create water where there was none. Throughout the 1950s, the construction of the national water carrier turned into a national mission, almost a wartime operation. Engineers, laborers, and scientists worked side by side to create what would soon be nicknamed Israel's Water Highway. The mission was clear: transport millions of liters of water daily, crossing valleys, plains, and deserts. The route included not just open-air canals, but underground tunnels like the Eshkol Tunnel. At 17 kilometers long, it was the world's longest at the time. But distance wasn't the only challenge. Gravity was a formidable foe. Water had to be pumped hundreds of meters uphill, requiring powerful pumps and state-of-the-art booster stations for that era. Every detail mattered. A miscalculation could disrupt water supplies for entire cities. But step by step, the canal took shape, and with it, a promise of new life in the heart of the desert. One of the greatest technical feats was lifting water from the Sea of Galilee, which lies below sea level. To get it flowing south, it had to be pumped over 200 meters above its original elevation. This demanded massive pumping stations running 24/7. These machines consumed huge amounts of energy and had to operate with pinpoint precision to maintain a steady flow. On top of that, engineers had to ensure the lake wouldn't be drained. In other words, the system had to be sustainable, controlling how much was extracted while monitoring the impact on the local ecosystem. This delicate balance of power, control, and purpose became a landmark of modern engineering, teaching the world that even the impossible can be overcome with innovation. Once completed, Israel had a water distribution system connecting two extremes, the fertile north and the arid south. Water, once a luxury limited to select areas, now traveled hundreds of kilometers, irrigating fields and supplying growing cities. The canal became vital to Israel's agricultural development. Communities in the Negev that were once on the brink of collapse began to thrive, with sustainable farming, regular harvests, and an unprecedented quality of life. Over time, the system expanded. Branches, new pipelines, and reservoirs were added to serve a growing population and economy. The carrier was no longer just an emergency project. It became the backbone of the nation's water infrastructure. The carrier's impact was so profound, it reshaped Israel's economic geography. Regions that once couldn't grow a single tree were now cultivating fruits, vegetables, and flowers for export. Water enabled Israel to develop high-precision agriculture in the desert. With advanced techniques and controlled irrigation, the Negev fields became icons of resilience and prosperity. This transformation made Israel not only self-sufficient, but also a food exporter, something unimaginable just decades earlier, and it all stemmed from a canal fed by the fresh water of the north. The desert was no longer a curse. It had become a canvas for innovation, hope, and productivity. Israel's water success had an unexpected ripple effect. It became a tool for diplomacy. In 1994, as part of the peace agreement between Israel and Jordan, water was a cornerstone of the deal. Israel agreed to supply Jordan with 25 million cubic meters of water annually, a figure that was later doubled to 50 million in 2021. The Sea of Galilee, once a national lifeline, now also supported the Hashemite kingdom. In a region where natural resources often spark conflict, water became a bridge for peace. A resource that could divide instead brought nations together. And this gesture, born from a project started in the 1950s, proved that infrastructure can do more than solve internal problems. It can build peace in one of the world's most volatile regions. Even after decades of success, nature came knocking again. From 2012 to 2017, a series of severe droughts drastically lowered the Sea of Galilee's water levels, threatening its ecosystem and the country's water security. Israel's main freshwater source was in danger. The red line marking critical levels had been crossed. So what do you do when even your last natural reservoir is vanishing? The answer was, once again, innovation. Refill the lake, but not with just any water, with desalinated seawater, purified using cutting-edge technology, and pumped back inland to rebalance the system. It was the first time in history that a country used ocean water, turned into drinking water, to refill a natural freshwater lake. A move that perfectly summed up Israel's philosophy. Where there's a limit, there's a solution. Building desalination plants along the Mediterranean coast was a game changer. Starting in the early 2000s, Israel bet big on reverse osmosis technology, transforming what was once expensive and inefficient into something scalable and cost-effective. The Ashkelon plant, one of the largest in the world, marked the beginning of this new phase. Today, Israel operates several such facilities, producing over 600 million cubic meters of water per year. Most impressively, about 80% of the potable water consumed in Israeli cities now comes from the sea. Dependence on rainfall, no longer an issue. Desalination turned Israel from a rain-dependent nation into a global leader in water creation. And once again, the country showed the world that natural resources are not fate, they're challenges waiting to be solved. When the Ashkelon desalination plant came online, it didn't just supply millions of Israelis, it proved large-scale desalination could be viable. Using cutting-edge technology, the process removes salt from seawater so efficiently that the final product exceeds the drinking water standards of most countries. This plant became a model, replicated both within and beyond Israel. Israeli companies now export their know-how to countries like China, India, Australia, and even the United States. Ashkelon isn't just a plant, it's an environmental engineering landmark, a reminder that the future of water might just lie in the ocean and in how we choose to harness its potential. In 2022, Israel made history again by launching a project that connected its desalination plants to the Sea of Galilee. The goal? Keep the lake stable, even during extreme droughts. 13 kilometers of underground pipelines were built to carry purified seawater from the coast to the country's heart. It was a full circle: ocean, plant, pipeline, lake. This move not only protected the local ecosystem, but also ensured continuous supply to the national water carrier. The original infrastructure was now being fed by a new generation of technology. There's nothing else like it in the world. A hybrid of nature and engineering, past and future. Proof that a nation's resilience can be measured by its ability to restore what once seemed lost. This massive underground network connects 5 of Israel's main desalination plants directly to the interior, a true sea tunnel hidden beneath the earth, but critical for national supply. Led by Mekarot, Israel's national water company, it's one of the largest water infrastructure investments of the decade. And it's not just about transportation, it's about strategic security. In times of war, drought, or geopolitical tension, Israel now has water redundancy, a system that can operate on multiple fronts, keeping the supply flowing even in extreme scenarios. This pipeline is more than steel and valves. It's a silent lifeline built with vision, redefining the idea of critical infrastructure. While many countries still treat sewage as a problem, Israel saw an opportunity. It developed the world's most advanced water reuse system, recycling over 90% of its wastewater. At the heart of this system is the Shafton plant near Tel Aviv. It treats sewage from the metropolitan area and turns it into high-quality water used for desert agriculture. The impact is massive. Negev fields, irrigated with recycled water, produce fresh crops year-round, without touching natural reserves. Israel protects its drinking water while powering its farms. This model doesn't just solve an environmental issue, it reinvents the urban water cycle, creating a circular economy that has wowed the world. It may sound shocking, but it's real. The desert blooms with water that once flowed from taps, showers, and toilets. After advanced treatment, that same water returns to the land, now as life-giving resource. This reuse is vital to Israel's food security. By reserving fresh water for human consumption and using treated water for crops, the country maximizes water efficiency. Farmers in the Negev receive this water through pressurized, quality-controlled systems that ensure both safety and productivity. And this model is catching on. Water-stressed nations are now studying how to replicate Israel's agricultural reuse of treated sewage. What was once taboo is now a solution. No technology better symbolizes Israel's water revolution than drip irrigation, invented in the 1960s. This system delivers water directly to plant roots, minimizing evaporation and waste. The result: 95% of water is utilized even under the desert's blazing sun. With it, Israel boosted agricultural output without increasing water use. Fields now thrive on a fraction of the water needed by traditional methods. Today, drip irrigation is used in over 100 countries. It was the drop that changed the world, proving that with precision, even deserts can become orchards. Israel didn't just survive its water crisis, it created a model the world is now eager to replicate. Israeli companies are leading water projects in California, India, Africa, and beyond. The technologies born in the desert are now being used in cities and rural areas where water can't keep up with growing populations. With expertise in desalination, recycling, smart irrigation, and integrated water management, Israel has become the blueprint for surviving the age of scarcity. What's most inspiring is that all of this came from necessity. It wasn't luxury, it was survival. And that's what makes the model so adaptable. Born from desperation, it blossomed through science. Israel's journey proves that the desert doesn't have to be the end. It can be a beginning. With vision, technology, and persistence, the impossible was tamed. Today, the country doesn't just supply itself. It exports water, technology, and hope. It's become a global symbol of resilience in an increasingly thirsty world. Crisis became legacy, scarcity became abundance, the desert became a lab, and Israel became a symbol. The question is no longer if it can be done, but who's next to turn the impossible into a solution? If you found this story incredible, just imagine what else is quietly being done to save our planet. Support this kind of content, like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to see that there's still hope for humanity's biggest challenges. And of course, subscribe to the channel, because here, you'll discover the ideas that are actually changing the world.